Before I even placed the first station hologram, I knew something was wrong. Train buildings in Satisfactory are absolutely massive. And the spot I chose? Tiny. Rivers cutting through it, an awkward shape, and uneven terrain. The moment I dropped in that first hologram, I realised just how difficult this build was going to be. This right here is where I've been imagining the terminal would go, and even if it is the most technically challenging build I've ever attempted, I'm determined to make it work. Because trains change everything. Suddenly those resources that felt out of reach, the biomes we haven't even explored yet, factories we haven't even designed, they all become possible with this train terminal. For me, this one's personal. I've always loved trains since I was a kid. Model railways, the old trains game, basically any game that gives you the ability to make a railway network, I love it. With the site chosen, the stakes set, and my sanity already halfway gone. So sit back, grab a drink. This is the terminal. Starting simple, just laying out a rough foundation, not trying to make it pretty yet, just creating a bit of space to work. I like to overbuild first to give me a proper area to work with. If you start too small, it can be constrictive and it doesn't really let the creative juices flow. So I'll come back in later once I start getting an idea of the shape and kind of carve back in, removing foundations where I see fit. So next up, the train stations, and like I said, I tried a few different layouts and I think I was trying to overcomplicate the placement of the stations, so I think just leaving it a bit more simple and letting the rest of the build do the talking, I think that was a smart move. And this just instantly shows how big these things are. So for the main showpiece of the build, I'm using Infinite Nudge to rotate this archway into the exact angle I want. So like I said, I had a bit of a vision for this build. Tie different elements from traditional railway stations into the build. You'll often see with stations a glass archway canopy, or whatever you call them. So this is kind of a nod to that. Then bringing back my fancy pillar blueprint from my previous factory, it just instantly connects it to the rest of the world. And it's also a modern take on the support pillars you'd see in train stations. So got the rest of the beams in. We can start to see the shape taking place now. So with the rail placed, I'm curving the foundations right along the edge, just to maximise the walkway below. Then we'll come ahead and get a beautiful kind of glass window in, wrapping alongside the track later on. So a quick detour, just collecting some coupons so we can go ahead and unlock the coated foundations now that we've got plastic producing.
Decoration and organization go hand in hand. Fix-It HQ custodian.
Cheers, mate.
Use of these customizer features does not
Oh, apparently I still require knowledge and skill. Oh. So at the moment the corner of the roof was kind of floating, so I made a support leg for it. And then just rotated it into place. Slowly nudging it. Centimetre at a time. Boom. But then, stepping back, I immediately hated it.
Ew.
But I don't really want to dwell on it too much at the moment, so I'll leave it in there as a placeholder, and as we're building other parts of the factory, I'll try and come up with an idea in my head and we'll come back and sort it out a bit later on. So naturally these builds would be spread across multiple days. So at the end of each building day, I'd take a screenshot and have it on my phone. So throughout the day, I'd look at it for a few seconds and try and think of any changes or design ideas. Might be really sad, but it definitely helps out my design process and it speeds it up a lot. So when I come to sit down at the computer, I know exactly what I'm going to try out or what I'm going to build. Because I feel like a lot of people struggle with coming up with creative ideas, but I feel like it's just as important to take a step back sometimes and just to take a break, reset, and then come back with a fresh mind, and you'll often find, you know, a new idea will pop into your head straight away as soon as you look at it. There we have it, the outdoor garden, and even Lizard Doggo approves. Oh. Oh. Oh, maybe not. So just getting the elevator in nice and early now to not block it in the future. And then I have just extended it up to the top floor, but I'm not sure whether I'll actually turn this into a floor or not in the future. Whether it'll just be kind of a rooftop terrace. I think that'll be kind of cool. Making our platform accessible to everyone. So it's finally time to get in some glass along this curved rail wall, using the wall and the window combo like I did in the Aetherium with the smelters. And just finishing off the glass with a roof, and I had this idea of a nice curving arching roof, but I immediately hated it, so we'll come back and change this up a bit later on. Outside again, adding the lighting trim, using the curved foundations I previously placed as guides. And then when I came to place the windows in my traditional style by nudging it into place, I realised I could curve the glass. So I wondered if I could make this curve all the way around without it clipping. And it looks like I can. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. Oh, it's going to save me so much time. Yes, I love mods. Talking of mods, I'll link all the mods down in the description so you can go ahead and check them out yourselves. I definitely recommend it. It adds so much creative possibilities to Satisfactory and really unlocks the game and takes it to a new level. So finally, time for something I've been putting off for a while, which was to add the glass to the roof. So I started off by putting a painted beam down the middle, and the first attempt was terrible. Second one, better. Like I say, I'm just using this as a rough guide, not to follow. And then it was a case of placing in the windows, nudging and rotating them into place. But I'm not going to make you sit through all of this. And roof completed. Lovely. So after taking way too long on the roof and taking a little break, it was time to tackle our next big problem, a support pillar. So you might have noticed I've added a few more beams just to thicken it up and give it a bit of texture. So my idea with the support leg was to just kind of zoop these down, and it went a lot smoother than expected. They all lined up nicely and followed the same angle, which is beautiful. Now I originally zooped both sides down, and looking back at it now, I'm still in two minds whether I should have kept this second leg, but I save my game and then I go ahead and delete them just to see what it'll look like without. And honestly, I think that looks much cleaner. I think that big sweeping arch over the two train stations looks incredible. Perfect. So, whilst we're dealing with problems, time to get rid of that horrible sloping roof and replace it with a flat one. I wanted to give the canopy above a bit of breathing room now, because originally I was trying to build everything a bit too close. So I just modified the support pillar blueprint to have a ramp on both sides, and we're just getting some of them down in the middle of the two train stations. And then after spending some time looking at this roof, trying a different design, deleting it, spending some more time looking at the roof, I came up with an idea. I was recently driving past Lime Street Station in Liverpool, and one of the things that I noticed was the use of repetition and symmetry. So we'll take that idea now and put it into practice. So I made a blueprint with the lighting trim just nudging them slightly into each other to avoid any black lines between the label signs. And then added one more wall slats in parallel mode just to speed up the process to create a semi-transparent roof. And you'll see in the cinematics at the end just how incredible this all looks. So just snapping the blueprints together and they fitted absolutely perfect together. Beautiful. So I wasn't happy with the harsh edge, so I did a bit of a curved foundation again, just raised slightly above the slats and then curved it around in the middle, which I'll later create a bit of a window in the middle of the two train stations. So I added a bit of trim off camera and I'm so happy with this. So for the longest time, I didn't really know what to do with this upper area. I did put a roof in off camera and I still wasn't too sure, but then once I did the station roof, I thought we could use the walls as a new blueprint. So all I've done is just trimmed it down into a single row, rotated it upright to create walls. So over on the other side of the build, I put in a bit of a storage area and surrounded it with glass, but that fancy wall treatment we did over there, oh boy, it's going to transform this. But before we could continue with any detailing, we had to finish the area underneath. Now I originally planned to have a bit of a truck station in the build, but due to the time constraints, I'm just going to put in a bit of a placeholder with almost like a closed garage. So I haven't really done too much on this side. I'd call the cargo side in brackets. Bit of an area of land here. So I wanted to turn it into a bit of an outdoor area, just raising up the foundation slightly just to add a bit of visual interest, a bit of texture. Lovely, lovely, perfect. So jumping back inside, I had an idea to use the fancy wall blueprint again, so just removing the foundations between the rails, and then we'll go ahead and nudge these wall blueprints into place to create a bit of an illusion as if there was a underground subway station underneath. So just pushing through, getting this area completely boxed off, I went ahead and put a Phoenix style roof on this part, and I'm just starting to trim with this double-sided light piece. But then I didn't like the gap it left between the fins, so I went ahead and filled it in with a 1.5 meter foundation. Now just adding some walkways over the rail. I know you can kind of walk around, but it just adds some vertical interest to the station. And then just using my Ferros lighting trim from the previous build between the pillars. Getting to the end of the build here, and finally we build the bridge. But where does it go? Oil? Ports? Maybe further? Well, I guess we'll find out soon. So before we jump into the cinematics, I wanted to do a bit of a walk around because I didn't do one last episode with it being a bit of a smaller build, but with this one being such a big build, I wanted to take the time to walk around and show you a few of my favourite spots. One of them being this spot right here. It's beautiful. It's turned out way better than I could have ever imagined when I had this vision for what I wanted to create. and whether it would even be possible to do in Satisfactory. But thanks to a couple of mods, I've been able to create what I want. I'm coming across the little footbridge to the main entrance. I just went super abstract with this one, taking inspiration from our previous build of the copper factory. Disjointed pillars, just kind of overlapping them to create this weird canopy entrance style. I think it's come out really cool. And you're going to start seeing these fancy walls a lot more often now, I'm not going to lie. They create... Bruh. Where have you come from, mate? He's just got off the train. Oh, jeez. Anyway, where was I? Yes, creative juices flowing. Yes. I've come up with so many different ideas doing this build. So something I didn't show on camera because I kind of lost the footage, my bad. A little underground walkway, and again, I really love how this one's turned out. I love how I've left the exposed rock work there, just between the path and the wall. Just adds a little bit of detail and colour. And there you can see I've just used that fancy wall again, but I've left a slightly bigger gap this time, so you can actually see inside a bit better. And then coming outside to the smaller garden at the back, my crafting bench still there from when I was crafting a few more crystal oscillators for all the display signs I've used. And we'll definitely have to build a factory in the future for that. Now, I was going to leave these spaces open here, but I think it was a real smart decision to utilise the walls again to give that optical illusion, to make the space feel a bit bigger than it actually is. Now, there probably is more detailing and tweaks I'd like to do, but there is a point where you have to kind of call it a day with a build, especially when you're working to schedule for YouTube. You know, that algorithm waits for nobody. So, yeah, I do have to kind of call it a day, but I'm 95% of the way there like I am with most builds, and I'm super happy with how this one came out. You know, at the moment I'm kind of building them week by week. I'm not really ahead with the builds, which is something I really want to try and do, at least get a week ahead with the builds, just to give me a bit more breathing room. And then I can start working on my other projects like the Satisfactory design school that I've previously talked about. I can't wait to start sharing my ideas and thoughts with you in a different kind of format, in more of a tutorial series, which is something you definitely don't want to miss out on if you struggle with factories in your own world, or how to come up with ideas. Alrighty, one absolutely massive build, and honestly, stepping back looking at this, it really hits me how far we've come. From episode 1, building the Frank, to now completing the train terminal 7 episodes later. The difference is unbelievable. Learned so much throughout the series, new techniques, new ideas, and new ways of building. And the terminal has pushed all that even further. The crazy part is, I still feel like I'm just getting started. So much more I want to build, so many factories, so many ideas, and so many places we haven't even touched yet. If you don't want to miss what's coming next, the stories, the challenges, the mistakes, the breakthroughs, the next big architectural leaps, make sure you're subscribed. I'd honestly love to know what your favourite part of the build is, or even your favourite build so far. And as always, thank you so much for your continued support. We're so close to 5,000 subscribers, but I can't get there without you guys hitting that subscribe button. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon members. With all that out of the way, I really can't wait to see you in the next episode. Ginge, out.